After 16 years, the long-awaited sequel to Double Fine's flagship game was released on August 25th, 2021. Psychonauts 2 was met with critical acclaim and quickly became Double Fine's highest-rated and best-selling game. This year, Psychonauts 2 turns 4 years old, and man, where does the time go? I thought it would be fun to celebrate with a deep dive into the Psychonauts Iceberg. This iceberg, with over 50 entries, was created by this user over on Tumblr, and they kindly let me use it for this video. Some of these entries have been discussed in both my videos on Psychonauts 1 and 2. To try and avoid redundancy, I've done my best to expand further on any information I've already discussed and share some of my personal thoughts on certain entries. Anyways, let's get right to it and explore the Psychonauts Iceberg. Bonus scene at rank 100. This entry refers to a special cutscene that plays after you reach a level 100 Psy Cadet rank. The cutscene shows Linda arriving at Thorny Towers and chatting with Shigor. Linda takes a special interest in Mr. Pokelope, and they have a moment together.
Linda, I haven't seen you in ages. You look so different.
Yeah, I've put on a little weight.
Oh, you know I don't mind that one bit.
I ship it. The Milkman. The Milkman is a character that we go searching for in Boyd Cooper's mind. The Milkman is a strange and elusive character that all of the entities in Boyd's mind are focused on. Eventually, we do find the Milkman, who turns out to be another version of Boyd. Once we free the Milkman, Boyd is affected dramatically in the real world. He takes out a Molotov cocktail and makes his way over to the center of Thorny Towers. Even after playing through the entire level firsthand, it's not exactly clear who or what the Milkman is and why their awakening causes Boyd to commit arson. The memory vaults in Boyd's mind provide the context we need to piece everything together. From Boyd's memory vaults, we learn that he used to work at a department store until he was fired. In retaliation, he then fired the store. Yeah. In another memory vault, we learn that Boyd was eventually found by Coach Oleander. The coach hypnotized Boyd and created the Milkman persona from Boyd's memories. He did this as a precautionary measure so that if needed, he could use the Milkman to burn down Thorny Towers and erase all evidence relating to Oleander's crimes. Memory vaults. Memory vaults, as mentioned in the previous entry, contain memories of the host of whatever mental world you are currently exploring. Oftentimes, these vaults are hidden away in obscure locations to protect the more sensitive memories. Here are a few that I found especially upsetting. Gloria's Fallen Star is a memory vault that focuses on Gloria von Guten and her extremely successful acting career. One day out of the blue, she learns that her mother committed suicide. This news hits Gloria hard, and as a result, her acting career totally plummets, and she develops mood swings. I Was Only Trying to Help comes from Compton Boole in Psychonauts 2. In this memory vault, Compton sneaks into a pet shop to free all the animals. The animals rush to thank Compton and begin smothering him. Compton gets overwhelmed by their excitement and unleashes an explosion of psychic energy that kills all of the animals. He sits in jail completely traumatized by what he's done. The Big Top is a memory vault in Psychonauts 1 that focuses on Coach Oleander. In this vault, we see Oleander form a special bond with a small rabbit. They play together and have fun until Oleander's dad appears. Oleander's father then snatches the rabbit and takes it to his butcher shop, where he slaughters it in front of little Ole. There's a lot of trauma packed away in these vaults. Camper interactions / character arcs. At Camp Whispering Rock, you can chat with the other campers to witness a myriad of optional cutscenes. Many campers have their own story arcs that actually unfold as you progress through the game. It is a really cool missable detail, and it's one of my favorite things about Psychonauts 1. There are 20 campers, not including Raz, and they all have their own mini story arcs. For example, we have Milka Phage, a shy girl who goes invisible anytime anyone gets too close to her. She has a massive crush on Elton Fur, and the two end up dating after Milka saves a fish from the camp bullies. There's also the story of Clem Foot and Crystal Snagrash. These campers appear to be upbeat and cheerful on the surface, but actually struggle with depression. Their story arc is very dark and upsetting. I go over their story in much greater detail in my video on Psychonauts 1, so go check it out if you're interested. In that video, I talk more in depth about the darker moments in the first Psychonauts game. One of my favorite camper story arcs involves Maloof Canola. Maloof's journey begins with him being continually harassed by camp bullies Bobby and Benny. Later in the game, we can find Maloof crying in the parking lot after Bobby and Benny strap a fish to his head with the underwear. As Maloof is venting about all the horrible things that were done to him, Bobby appears and continues to bully Maloof. Then, another camper named Mikhail Bulgakov lifts Bobby off the ground and chokes him via telekinesis. Later, we find Maloof and Mikhail playing a game of psychic catch. A conversation between them reveals that they've worked out a little deal, and now Mikhail is acting as Maloof's bodyguard. Mikhail will even attack Raz if you try to hurt Maloof.
No one touch Maloof anymore.
Let him go, Mikhail. He did me a favor once. For that, he gets 1 day free ride. Oof. Thanks.
In the wilderness near the GPC, we can catch the duo holding Benny over the river. They, contemplate various ways to torture him.
What to do with small bully assistant?
Jeez, I don't know. Could you put him in that deadly Nelson you were talking about?
Could. On such tiny opponent, all blood might drain out ear holes.
Ah!
You can even join in on the fun with some well-aimed psi blasts. Raz stole Bobby's victory dance. During basic braining, Bobby will push Raz off a ledge and follow it up with his iconic victory dance. Later in the level, we need to grind on some rails and Bobby gets in our way. After slapping Bobby out of our way, Raz mimics his victory dance. From this point onwards, Raz essentially adopts this taunt and uses it multiple times throughout the series. In Black Velvetopia, Raz will do this dance anytime you defeat any of the luchadors. He'll also do this dance if you try to storm Napoleon's stronghold without properly playing the game first.
That was easy. Stronghold stormed, game won.
Oh, you have to storm the stronghold with your knight, you stupid fool.
Oh.
In Psychonauts 2, you can obtain the Bobby Pin, which causes Raz to perform this dance whenever you're standing around doing zilch. Raz's idle animation changes. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Depending on where you are, Raz's idle animation will change. I noticed that at random points in camp, Raz will also do Bobby's victory dance, but I'm not sure what triggers this. Some online sources claim that Raz will do this after ranking up or collecting a scavenger hunt item. Raz also has unique idle animations for certain mental worlds. In Mia's dance party, Raz will do a little dance. Kinda depressing that nobody wants to dance with him. In Lungfishopolis, Raz will sometimes check under his shoe, then scrape the ground afterwards. A bit morbid if you've been stepping on the lungfish civilians. He'll also crouch down and look around as if he's searching for prey. He really leans into his role as a giant monster in this world, and it's awesome. In Gloria's stage play, Raz will wave to the crowd, then bow. And finally, in the Milkman Conspiracy, Raz's idle animation will change depending on what item he's holding. If Raz has a stop sign, he'll hold the sign up and signal people to cross. If he has a phone, he'll hold it up to his ear and pretend to have a conversation. If he has a flower, he'll hold it close to his body. If he has a watering can, he'll pretend to water some flowers. If he has shears, he'll snip at the air. If he has a rolling pin, he'll roll away at the air. If he has a plunger, he'll plunge the ground. If he has a sniper rifle, he'll look it over. And finally, if he has a helmet, he'll hold it up and just look at it. Rhombus of Ruin. Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin is a VR game that takes place shortly after the events of Psychonauts 1. The game follows Raz on a mission to rescue Truman Zanotto, the head of the Psychonauts. The Rhombus of Ruin is the main setting for the game, and it exists in a specific region in the ocean. It's common here for ships and planes to suddenly go missing without any explanation. Over the course of the game, we learn that a giant deposit of Silurium sits below the waters of the Rhombus. This psychohazardous material is capable of distorting someone's mind, causing them to hallucinate. Turns out that Silurium is what's causing all these strange disappearances that have occurred within the Rhombus. When we get a good look at the giant deposit of Silurium, we can see that it's surrounded by a ton of different vehicles. We even see Mia inside of a bus. So maybe it's possible that Silurium was able to affect people on land as well, causing them to drive into the ocean. Tim Schafer. This is the creator and writer of Psychonauts. Schaefer is also the founder of Double Fine, which he founded in the year 2000. The first game released under Double Fine was, of course, Psychonauts. The idea of Psychonauts first came to Schaefer while he was working on Full Throttle at LucasArts. He really wanted to add an interactive dream sequence in the game. The plan was to add a segment where the game's protagonist, Ben Throttle, would take peyote and walk off into the desert. Ben would then experience hallucinations and visions that would lead to this interactive dream sequence. Here, the player would need to unlock the secrets of Ben's knowledge by solving the puzzles in his mind. Very trippy stuff. This idea did not make its way into the final game, but Schaefer held on to this idea of exploring someone's mind. Later, a programmer from another team had asked to hear more about Schaefer's idea for a game where you go into other people's heads. Schaefer originally planned for the game to be focused on exploring your own mind, but decided exploring other minds was a better idea after this miscommunication with his coworker. In a documentary series on the Double Fine YouTube channel, which we'll come back to later, Schaefer shares some of his early drafts for the story of Psychonauts. In this old notebook, Schaefer wrote about a character stuck in an insane asylum who tries to break free by jumping into other people's minds. The mind-reading abilities were possibly going to be a result of electroshock therapy. It's safe to say that the original plans for the game's story were much darker. As Schaefer flips through the pages, we see how his plans had quickly shifted from taking place at an asylum to a summer camp. Slowly but surely, the game that we know and love today was eventually able to take shape. Rank 101. Once you obtain rank 100 and unlock the special secret cutscene, you may assume that you've done all there is to do in Psychonauts. However, it is possible to go beyond 100 and reach the mythical rank 101. Normally, you rank up as you get your hands on various collectibles, but collectibles alone won't get you to rank 101. To achieve this mythical rank, you'll also need to complete the punching minigame in Basic Braining. We're forced to complete the first round of the minigame for story reasons. Then there are 5 more rounds to get through if we want to get to rank 101. Each round gets progressively more and more difficult, and okay, potentially hot take incoming. It's not that bad. I saw a lot of stuff online from people saying that this was their least favorite part of getting 100% in Psychonauts, but I didn't mind. Sure, the later rounds took a few tries, but it wasn't brutal or anything, though I might have lost it if Crystal and Clem were cheering for me the whole time.
Shut up, shut up, shut up! We'll never give up on you, Raz!
Yeah, we're gonna keep cheering you till you win!
Yeah!
Meat Circus was nerfed. The final level in Psychonauts 1, the Meat Circus, is notorious for its asinine difficulty. You have to do a very annoying escort mission, face off against a difficult boss, and traverse a tough platforming sequence while you're being showered with projectiles. It is absolutely infuriating, and it was what I dreaded the most when I started making my video on Psychonauts. Yet when I got to the level, I beat it without any real hassle. It was so weird. I could have sworn that this level was 10 times harder as a kid. And with the way people talk about it online, you'd think that the devil himself made this level. I started to think that maybe it was just a huge skill issue, at least on my part. I wasn't necessarily the best at video games when I was younger. It turns out that the Meat Circus was made a lot easier for the Steam, PSN, and Xbox Live versions of the game. On the Double Fine YouTube channel, they have a Let's Play of Psychonauts with guest commentary from people who worked on the game. In the final episode, they discuss a few of the changes made for the new Meat Circus. First, Little Oli's health was increased for the escort mission. In fact, his health was tripled from its original value. Second, this level got a lot more forgiving when it came to losing lives. You no longer lose a life when Little Oli dies, or if you fall off during the rail grind portion. Third, the damage volume for the flames were adjusted. In the original game, the flame hitbox was larger than how they visually appeared, which caused some unfair hits. Next, the knife-throwing enemies had the speed adjusted on their knives. Now they throw knives a lot slower, and the knives don't have knockback like they used to. And lastly, a bug from the original Xbox version was fixed. This bug occurred in the section with the rising water. If you happen to die here, the water may suddenly rise to a much higher level when you respawn. I don't trust myself to properly explain why this would happen, so I'll play the clip of programmer Ki Chi explaining it.
In the Xbox version, you would have encountered the bug where the water would have gone up a little higher than it should have.
Like every time you die, or?
Yeah, because I checkpointed where the water should be. If you reload from a particular save, But if you just happen to fall and you were ahead, it would scooch it up to where it might be closer.
Serpentine, back and forth, back and forth.
Once the meat circus is completed, you unlock an achievement called "I Thought That Was Unbeatable," a cute nod to the original level's difficulty. In the video, they also talk a bit about all the little things you can do to make this level slightly more bearable. For example, you can hit the bunnies with confusion grenades to stop them in their tracks. Then you can grab them and hand them off to little Oli. Did you know that? I always used telekinesis to hold them in place so little Oli could grab them. Or how about this trick with the knife throwers? You can use the shield power to block the knife, causing it to ricochet and land on the target behind you. This is a lot easier than trying to dodge the knife. You can also use invisibility before walking on the tightropes towards Evil Augustus. If you're invisible, he won't toss any projectiles your way. Isn't that nuts? There are so many cool little tips and tricks that I had no idea about. I mean, I doubt it makes the original Meat Circus a cakewalk, but these are all really cool. All Paul. All Paul is a boy band that exists in the Psychonauts universe. The boy band is made up of 3 guys, all named Paul, who wear mermaid tails in their performances. We first hear of All Paul on the Psychonauts jet in the Rhombus of Ruin. Here we can find a vinyl cover for their album titled All Paul, Paul the Way. There are amazing tracks included in this record, such as Let's Make Out, Shut Up, parentheses, and Kiss Me, Hot Dog, Boy Treat, parentheses, On the Street, and the famous Drag Me Down. The vinyl belongs to Coach Oleander, who is a big fan of All Paul. Later in the game, when we reunite with him, we find him on a stage performing the best All Paul song, Drag Me Down. Yeah, I said it. In the ship where we find Oleander, we can also find several posters promoting the All Paul cruise. If we use pyrokinesis on the curtain behind Oleander, we'll discover the skeletons of 3 people wearing mermaid tails. Yeah, it turns out that this sunken ship is the All Paul cruise ship. The members of the band unfortunately died when it sank. Guess we'll need some pallbearers. Psychonauts 2 also references the boy band. We can hear Drag Me Down playing in the Astral Lanes bowling alley. One of the interns, Gisu Neriman, has an All Paul pin on her bag. I wonder if she heard the news. Do you guys have any bands you'd recommend to Gisu? Personally, I've been really enjoying Gingerroot's Shin Ban Gumi. Lot of tracks that I love there. Oatmeal. Whenever you're in a mental world, you can find this little green guy blowing bubbles. You can interact with him to fast travel to locations you've already visited within a mental world. And this little guy is pretty mysterious. It's not explained who or what he is, we just know that he helps us teleport around. A piece of concept art for this creature refers to him as a Psy-Popper generator. Still not exactly a name, but it's something. The Psychonauts manual calls him a little critter and Raz calls him Buddy on occasion. Still not names. However, the game's files refer to him as Oatmeal. This name is never said in-game, of course. Why this name was chosen for the character is explained in the previously mentioned Double Fine Let's Play of Psychonauts. In part 5, it's explained that the name comes from a scene in Frosty the Snowman. It's the one where the kids are all choosing a name for their newly made snowman. One of the kids randomly shouts, "Oatmeal!" and all the other kids repeat it back in confusion.
Oatmeal!
It's a weird and quirky scene that really helped the name Oatmeal stick. Boyd's ramblings. When you first encounter Boyd Cooper at Thorny Towers, he'll start muttering conspiracies to himself as he scribbles along the walls. This dialogue from Boyd is actually procedurally generated. Within the game, there is a huge library of phrases for Boyd that are stitched together to create new rants. With this system, Boyd can effectively ramble on forever and rarely repeat the same thing twice. This idea for dynamically generated speech came from Tim Schafer, who wanted Boyd to ramble constantly. He handed off a huge list of sentence fragments to Anna Kipnis, a programmer who worked on Boyd's behavior in Psychonauts 1. From there, she constructed Boyd's muttering. At the Console Game Development Conference, Anna Kipnis gave a presentation on dialogue systems in Double Fine games. Here she explained that Boyd's dialogue was something she constructed with a state machine diagram.
So how is this done? Well, what you see there is a state machine diagram that describes how to construct his lines that Tim made. So for example, you'd pick a conspirator.
The manager of that boy band!
Then pick from a list that could link in another conspirator,
Made a deal back in '68 with
then another conspirator.
the dairy industry
And then maybe there's a victim involved, so first you link them in,
to keep down
then pick a victim,
all of us.
and then finish off with a non sequitur.
Did I just think that? Or did someone make me think it?
Okay, Psychonauts 1 is full of a ton of little missable Easter eggs and cutscenes and character interactions. This has to be like top 3. This is so cool. I had no idea about this before researching for this video. I love that Psychonauts 1 is just full of really cool, awesome, missable things. Like, I feel like every time I come back to this game, I learn something new. Mia's Nightmare Room. In Mia's dance party, you can find a secret room hidden behind a figment. If you go inside, Mia begs Raz to leave.
Now why would you want to come in here? Come on, this room's no fun. Let's leave, baby.
The room itself is very small, dark, and contains several figments resembling children. We can also find a memory vault stomping around here. Inside the vault, we find a memory called Mia's Children. This memory comes from Mia's time working at an orphanage. She was very close to all of the children there and she loved them deeply. One day while she was out, she came back to the orphanage and found it on fire. At that moment, Mia experienced a surge of emotions that awakened her psychic powers. Because of her newly awakened powers, she could hear the children's screams in her mind as they burned in the fire. This moment was extremely traumatizing for Mia, which created this room that she desperately tries to hide. In the corner of this room, we can find a large toy box. If you pop it open, the box emits a spooky orange glow. Hop inside and we're transported to... whatever the hell this is. In this fiery pit, we're trapped inside of a giant cage. Behind the bars, there are several demonic creatures lurking about. These monsters are called the Nightmares, and they represent the children that Mia could not save. They whisper haunting phrases in a shrill voice and gaze at Raz as they drift around. This room is easily one of the most frightful elements in the Psychonauts series. It's so damn unsettling to find such a depressing Easter egg hidden away inside the mind of an upbeat and bubbly character. On the bright side, it appears that Mia has developed a healthy way of dealing with her trauma. It exists, it's part of her, but she doesn't let this trauma ravage her mind. Instead, her trauma is literally compartmentalized and given its own space to exist in. Mia herself acknowledges this pain and tells Raz that he's lucky that she has her nightmares under control. It's subtle, but I think this piece of dialogue illustrates that Mia has learned effective methods for managing her trauma. Just a few feet outside this room is a colorful world that Mia is able to appreciate despite what she's been through. In the real world, Mia is kind and compassionate towards all of the campers at Whispering Rock. I also think that Mia demonstrates growth in her ability to use her psychic powers for good, rather than resenting these abilities. If you think about it, her telekinesis amplified the terror she felt as the orphanage burned. After an experience like that, I would never want to use my psychic powers again. Yet Mia is able to use her powers without hesitation. Sasha9 even considers Mia to be the most talented levitator in the Psychonauts. Sorry to get all in this essay I will on you, I just think that Mia is a very cool character. Raz's stump speech. Psychonauts 1 opens up with Coach Oleander delivering a legendary speech about the human mind. If you return to the area where Oleander gave this speech, you can have Raz recite the opening in its entirety.
The human mind. 600 miles of synaptic fiber. 5.5 ounces of cranial fluid. 1,500 grams of complex neural matter.
Raz will also do this in P2 when you're in the mental recreation of Whispering Rock. However, this is only an abridged version of the speech.
The human mind. 3-pound pile of dreams. The rest of you will die. Yada yada yada. I don't have time for speeches. I'm on a mission.
Clairvoyance Easter eggs. Using the clairvoyance ability on someone displays the world from their point of view. It also reveals how this individual sees Raz. You can use clairvoyance on nearly every human and animal in the Psychonauts games, and they all see Raz differently. Here is a short compilation of some of my favorite clairvoyance Easter eggs. The rabbits in Basic Braining see Raz as a big scary butcher. This is a subtle bit of foreshadowing for Oleander's past. Sasha 9 sees Raz as a younger version of himself. It's a really cute detail that I feel really explains why Sasha is so willing to train Raz. After completing Psyking Sensorium in Psychonauts 2, we can see that Helmet views Raz as the greatest roadie in the biz. This is of course a reference to Eddie Riggs from Brutal Legend. There's a funny one with Raz's archetype where he sees Raz as the clone. I think it's a reference to one of the archetype's lines. He says something like,
Sup, clone?
Aw, that's cute. My clone thinks he's real.
Lastly, I love how Truman Zanato sees Raz as a little guy in a suit and flowers like he's gonna ask Lily to prom. I always liked how both Lily and Raz's fathers are very supportive of their relationship. Psychic 7 are on stumps at Whispering Rock. At Whispering Rock, you can find 7 stumps in the area where Oleander gives his speech. These stumps have art on them depicting every member of the Psychic 7, even Lucretia Mux. The artwork on each stump is somewhat close to the designs we see in P2, especially with characters like Otto Mentalis and Bob Zanato. Other characters went through noticeable changes. The artwork is changed in the second game so that they better reflect the final designs of these characters. In the first game, a majority of these stumps have a fire lit on top of them, but for some reason Ford Kreller, Bob Zanato, and Cassiopeia are all missing a fire. I'm not sure if there's any reason behind this. Ford's stump is even missing his name, which could potentially be a hint towards his shattered psyche. Roast dinner. There are 2 roast dinner items in P1, the bird roast dinner and the squirrel roast dinner. These items are obtained by using pyrokinesis on birds and squirrels around camp.
See you in hell.
Jesus, Raz. Come on, man. Upon consumption, these items will restore a little bit of mental energy. Lobato's Kid. In the post-game for P2, there is a batch of new and optional conversations to check out. You can see how Lucy and Ford are holding up, check up on Augustus, and even chat with Lobato. He's in the middle of escaping from the Mother Lobe and asks Raz not to tell anyone. Then before he leaves, he says this.
Plus, I need to get back to camp. I left my kid there.
Wait, what?
There are dozens of theories online that attempt to uncover the identity of Lobato's kid. A popular theory suggests that Bobby Zilch is Lobato's child. There's this really great post on r/Psychonauts game that explains this theory in great detail. I'll provide a link to this post in the description and summarize some of the main points here. For starters, Bobby and Lobato both have the same teal-colored skin. Second, Bobby and Lobato both have heterochromia with the same eye colors. One eye is red and one eye is green. Third, Bobby and Lobato have similar body types. They have these long, noodly arms and legs with giant heads. And lastly, we learned in the Rhombus of Ruin that Lobato used to be a psychic. This would explain where Bobby's psychic powers genetically originated from. I'm not sure if it's stated in the games that psychic powers are passed on from family, but we can see that other campers have psychic relatives. Raz has Augustus and Frazee, Dogen has Sam and Compton, and Lily has Truman. Like most theories, this one isn't bulletproof, and some of the flaws with this theory are brought up by OP. Once again, I'll summarize a few of the main points. First, there's the obvious difference between Lobato and Bobby's last names, Zilch and Lobato, though this could be explained by Lobato and his partner separating. His hypothetical partner could have just changed Bobby's last name. Next, it seems odd that Lobato would steal his own son's brain. Lobato works with several people to get his evil plan up and running, so why wouldn't he work with Bobby? Bobby is already a cruel person, so it's not like he would be opposed to stealing the brains of his fellow campers. He could have teamed up with Oleander to snatch up everyone's brains. Though it is possible that Lobato didn't know that Bobby was his son during the events of the first game. And lastly, Bobby and Lobato have completely different hairstyles. Bobby has big, orange, curly hair, and Lobato has straight, dark purple hair. I think that this is something that can be chalked up to Lobato's hypothetical partner. Whoever this mystery person is, maybe their hair looks more similar to Bobby's. This post is a great read, and I only gave it a very mediocre summary, so definitely go check it out and form your own opinion. Some people even think that Dogen Boole or Chloe Barge could be Lobato's kid. And of course there is the possibility that we're all overthinking this way too hard and Lobato actually just owns a baby goat. What color is the sky in your world? This is a 3-part mini-doc series on Double Fine's YouTube channel. All 3 episodes are condensed into a single episode for the first episode of the Psychonauts series as well. This documentary serves as a fun look back on the development of the first Psychonauts game. We get some fun interviews with the original dev team and they talk about their experiences with working on the original game. We also get to see their reactions to the game's reception.
We got all these ridiculous awards like best game no one played. I don't know if Tim's gonna like me saying this, but like he had a joke. It's like Anna should go tell him they're the nicest guy no one slept with.
The phrase, "What color is the sky in your world?" comes from a conversation between Schaefer and some friends. He was at lunch with a few friends when one of them said something kinda strange. Then another person responded by asking, "What color is the sky in your world?" Schaefer held on to this phrase and started thinking more and more about what it would be like to see the world from someone else's perspective. It's a question that sits at the heart of Psychonauts and helped guide the dev team whenever they were creating new levels. This phrase is even referenced within Psychonauts. If you call Ford for advice while you're in Boyd's mind, he'll say this.
Agent Cruller, do you have any advice on the current situation?
Use your clairvoyance power on that loony. I'd like to see what color the sky is in his world.
Gristel's crown in Lobato's Labyrinth. In Lobato's Labyrinth, you can find a chandelier in the central office area. The chandelier is right above this giant painting of Lobato, and it looks similar to Gristel Malik's crown. It's not a perfect one-to-one, but I'm sure you see the similarity. What really sells it for me is that white fluffy ring at the bottom of the chandelier. It looks just like the white trim on Gristel's crown. It is a very cool piece of subtle foreshadowing. I love that the first levels in Psychonauts 1 and 2 both foreshadow the game's true antagonist. Smiling sun during day, tormented faces at night. During the day in Psychonauts 1, you can see a smiling sun in the sky. Cute details like these really make Whispering Rock feel like home. At night over at Thorny Towers, the smiling sun is replaced with screaming faces. These faces also appear in P2 at the Thorny Towers area of Lobato's Labyrinth. No reason is given as to why these faces appear, but once you notice them, you can't unsee them. D'Artagnan. Before Rasputin Aquato, there was D'Artagnan,
Alstublieft,
the original protagonist for Psychonauts. Not a whole lot is known about Dart, but off the bat we can see how drastically different he is from Raz. Dart has teal skin, orange eyes, and a giant striped sleeping cap. When I first saw this design, I thought that maybe Psychonauts was originally going to be about exploring the dreams of other characters, which could explain why the protagonist had a giant sleeping cap, though in all of my research I never found any documents or interviews that supported my short-lived hypothesis. In the Color of the Sky in Your World documentary, there's a brief segment where they discuss Dart's design. Schaefer says that this version of the protagonist wasn't very compelling. Scott Campbell adds that Dart's redesign was necessary because he looked very odd in an already odd cast of characters. Dart just didn't look like a leader and thus needed to be changed. Over on the Double Fine Twitter, they reveal that before Dart was changed, he made it pretty far in the design process. They had already created running and jump cycles as well as tightrope walking animations. In the Color of the Sky in Your World, we can even see Dart in a cutscene with Gloria. Dart was also pretty difficult to animate. The Double Fine Twitter reveals that Dart's floppy hat took up 87% of the game's data resources. No doubt another reason why he was changed. Even though Dart was scrapped, his legacy lives on in the series. The Double Fine Twitter also shares that many of Raz's animation files start with Dart. For example, there's Dart_Psy_Blast. Dart is also referenced in the opening for P1. When Oleander tries to read Raz's mind and discover his name, Oleander is confident that it starts with a D. Dart also makes an appearance in the final cutscene for the game. As the camera pans over the parking lot, it briefly passes over an outhouse. Behind the outhouse door, we can see Dart peeking out before slamming the door shut. His appearance in the game has led many people to believe that Dart is actually Lobato's son. I'm not sure if this theory holds water, but I think it would make for a very funny reveal. All these years of people thinking that it's Bobby, only for it to be revealed that it's actually someone we've never been officially introduced to. That goat thing works too. I mean, whatever direction we want to go with this. Dart is also referenced in the post-game for Psychonauts 2. At the Psycho-Isolation Chamber, the front desk woman will try to recall Raz's name. She will guess a bunch of different names, including D'Artagnan.
Hey, what was your name again? D'Artagnan! Terrell? Oh wait, that's my name.
Psychic 7 in Cassie's collection. In Cassie's collection, you can find a secret area containing every member of the Psychic 7. To access this area, you need to make your way up to this globe at the center of the library. Once you're on top, use your archetype to pull this switch on the floor. The globe will start to rise and you'll be taken to the secret area. Here we can find archetypes of every member of the Psychic Seven. Since we're in Cassie's mind, they all act how Cassie perceives them to be. Ford encourages Cassie's isolation, Otto is a bit egotistical, Helmet is acting like a performer, and Bob says something about plants since he was always kinda into that stuff. I'd say that Compton acts the most like his real-world counterpart. He's worried about Cassie and laments about her absence. This is no doubt because of how close him and Cassie are in the real world. What's really interesting is our conversation with Lucretia Mux. She seems completely unaware of her motives for killing all of those people in Grulovia. When we ask her about her relationship with Cassie, she claims that Cassie had tried to be friends with her, but Lucy was too busy
making Google eyes at Fort Crawler. I ruined everything, you know.
Ooh, jealous. It's really interesting how the Psychic Seven archetypes appear in Cassie's mind. They all look like the younger versions of themselves, and there's a lot of information that they don't know. Bob is unaware of his great-niece, and Lucy has no idea why she kills people. It's likely that Cassie herself doesn't know this information, which is why her archetypes also don't know. This could be why the archetypes also look like the younger versions of themselves, since this is when Cassie last saw them. Double Fine's Psychonauts. Double Fine's Psychonauts is a 33-episode documentary series created by Two Player Productions. This documentary follows the wild ride that was the 6-year development of Psychonauts 2. This series is also a follow-up to the Double Fine Adventure documentary, which focused on the development of Broken Age. When I first watched Psychonauts, it was back when I was working on my video for P2. Originally, I was intimidated by the length of the series. As if 33 episodes didn't already sound daunting, some of these episodes are over an hour long. I was in for a very long journey. Yet after just the first 2 episodes, I was completely hooked on the series. Maybe it was my love for Psychonauts, or my interest in game development, or my embarrassing fondness for anything even resembling reality TV, but I found myself completely wrapped up in the story being told here. When I started the documentary, I took notes on every piece of information I could find relating to P2, scrapped story elements, early character designs, and potential concepts for levels. Then I noticed my notes had developed. It was no longer about taking notes on things relating to P2. I was writing timestamps for funny interactions, tense meetings, and Pendleton Ward?
You're here.
Yeah. I got really invested in the lives of the people making this game. When they would succeed, I felt myself grinning from ear to ear. And when people would leave Double Fine, I would let out a gasp to a completely empty room. This documentary is so real and complex, and I just love it dearly. If you have an interest in Psychonauts, or video game development, or just really good documentaries, then you owe it to yourself to check out Psychonauts. And if you have seen it, or you're going to see it, please tell me about some of your favorite moments from this doc. I have been dying to talk about it with someone, and all of my friends refuse to watch it. Please tell me any thoughts you had. I'm all ears. In case you're wondering, here are my notes for episode 21. That was insane. Also, last thing, I promise, the soundtrack by Orange Drink is goddamn amazing. Here are my top 3 favorite tracks in no particular order: Late Night Study Group, The Magic Scarf 2, and Illusions. It's been wonderful to listen to this soundtrack while putting this video together. Pregnant Raz Easter egg. Once you've completed Psychonauts 2, head back to Hollis's hot streak and head to the maternity ward. Use telekinesis to pick up a pen, then chuck it at the ward sign to trigger a cutscene.
Keep it inside, Raz. We're almost there.
You're doing so well, darling.
Why am I pregnant?
There's no time, Raz. Lobato's consciousness is about to erupt out of your psychic uterus.
What?
You're doing really, really well, Raz.
I don't need to hear that.
Mia, I need that clown makeup.
I'm almost done.
Quickly, Raz. Kiss this piglet's behind. Lobato is almost defeated for good.
Why don't I remember any of this?
You want to remember this?
No.
That's what I thought. Push. Push, Raz. Push.
Not that dream again.
So, what do we think? This scene was storyboarded and voiced by Pendleton Ward. So that's why you gotta throw the pen at the Ward sign. It's cute, it's cute. In an interview with MinMax, Tim Schafer explains the origin of this Easter egg. At the very beginning of P2's development, Schafer held a meeting with Pendleton Ward and Eric Woolpaw to brainstorm ideas for the game. The idea for opening the game with a pregnant Raz was just something that stuck. Unfortunately, this was also one of the few meetings that Schafer asked 2-Player Productions to not attend, so sadly there isn't any footage of these three discussing whether or not the game should open up with pregnant Raz. Other beta designs. Dart, or Raz, wasn't the only one who got a makeover during the development of P1. There are multiple characters who also received design changes over time. For example, Coach Oleander had a fairly different design. Oleander used to have a giant mustache, a striped tank top, shorts, and a bunch of tattoos slapped on his arms. His beta design sort of resembles a circus strongman. He even has a little dumbbell that he would carry around. Maybe this strongman look was intentional and Oleander had originally worked at a circus. Maybe he would have even worked alongside the amazing Aquatos. Not every design change was this drastic, however. Lily Zanotto has a couple of beta designs that had varying hairstyles and outfits, but Lily herself looks similar enough to her final design. I feel like her beta designs could even be used as potential outfits and styles for a future Psychonauts project, if that ever came to be. The entry Other Beta Designs could also refer to the beta designs for certain psychic powers. In the beta trailer for Psychonauts 1, we can see Raz use multiple abilities that look very different from how they appear in the final game. For example, telekinesis has this giant orange arm beaming out of Raz's head to move and grab objects. It looks a lot like the arm you'd see in a Crane game. Invisibility has Raz swinging this giant orange circle around until it passes through him. When he's invisible, we can see that Raz has this black and white silhouette and his goggles have a slight orange glow to them. Levitation looks pretty close to how it appears in the final game, but in the trailer we can see Raz bouncing on the ball to get an even higher jump. My guess is that Levitation originally had a bounce bracelet type move where you could slam into the ground to jump even higher than usual. Egg symbolism. In the Brain Tumblr experiment, you can find a memory vault called "The World Shall Taste My Eggs." The brain walks over to the ocean, rides on a fish, and lands at an amusement park. The brain gets on a teacup ride, then goes on to destroy the world. At first glance, this memory vault is completely incomprehensible.
Okay, what the hell was that? I'm seeing some crazy stuff in here, Sasha.
Things only start to make sense when you consider that the eggs are symbolism for the campers at Whispering Rock. The fish symbolizes Linda, the amusement park is Thorny Towers, and the teacups represent giant battle tanks. This memory vault is essentially just a recap of Lobato's and Oleander's big evil plan to steal everyone's brains and take over the world. It's just explained in a very weird way, fitting for a mad scientist. When Raz arrives in this dark area of the Brain Tumblr experiment, he arrives here inside of a giant egg, further supporting that the eggs represent the campers. Boyd is based on a real person. On Double Fine's YouTube channel, there is a video where Scott Campbell and Tim Schafer give commentary on the memory vaults in the first game. When they get to Boyd's vaults, Schafer reveals that Boyd was based on a real person. This was a man who would sweep up the alleys near the Double Fine office for $10 a week. He would often say strange and peculiar things that the team would use for Boyd's dialogue.
Because there was a guy out in the alley outside of Double Fine. He used to sweep up the alley for us for $10 a week, and then he would say things that were interesting that we used for Boyd, like the thing about being a rocket with a turtle with a rocket tied to his back. That was all him, and his obsession with plastics and pelicans was all him.
Yeah.
And he used to talk about Hernando, and I never knew what he was talking about. So Hernando is just in there, mysterious. It all kind of makes sense.
Psychic flowers. Herbophony is a psychic ability that allows users to speak with and manipulate plant life. This rare ability is wielded by several members of the Zanotto family. Bob seems especially adept at using this power. He's able to create giant structures with plants while also being able to use them for offensive purposes. We mainly see Lily communicate with plants, but she'll no doubt be able to achieve similar feats as she grows stronger. Lungfishopolis Bound-Breaking Exploit. I've struggled to find anything about some sort of boundary-breaking exploit in Lungfishopolis, but I did find one for the Meat Circus. This exploit is performed during the Rising Water segment, and it is very easy to pull off. To perform this exploit, continue through the level as normal until fake Augustus is standing on top of a meat trampoline. Make your way over to him and palm bomb onto the trampoline as he jumps away. If done correctly, you'll be thrown up into the air and knocked out of bounds near the top of the circus tent. From here, the camera will go crazy, and eventually you'll land onto a platform that triggers the next cutscene, allowing you to skip a majority of the rising water segment.
Dad, I made it!
You cheated!
Who fucking told him? Timeline weirdness. I'm pretty sure that this entry refers to when Psychonauts takes place, as it's never stated in-game. I always figured that the games took place in either the 80s or the 90s, but of course I don't have any evidence to really support that. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there's an interview out there somewhere where Tim Schafer confirms that the timeline is kept vague on purpose in case they want to change things up in the future. Again, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's like vaguely 90s or 80s. Old Psychopedia. The Old Psychopedia was an official Psychonauts wiki run by Double Fine. It contained a ton of information on the first Psychonauts game. Fans could even contribute to and edit the wiki articles. Unfortunately, the Old Psychopedia was shut down in December of 2008. Luckily, most of it can still be accessed through the Wayback Machine. The current Psychopedia exists as the Psychonauts Fandom Wiki. Psychonauts merchandise. There is a lot of fun merch that was created for the Psychonauts series. So much that it would be kind of a pain to go through it all, so we're just going to talk about some of my favorites. First, there are the Psychonauts minifigures. There are 10 figures total, all based on characters featured in the first game. They appear to be rare and that makes me so sad. I want them all so bad, guys. There's a Double Fine employee who has all the figures, and you can see shots of them during Psychodyssey. Do you think they have any interest in maybe getting rid of them? They did end up creating another minifigure for Psychonauts 2, but it was an exclusive backer reward. We'll come back to those backer rewards later, so keep that in your back pocket. Next, we have a pre-order bonus that came with the original release of Psychonauts. For those who pre-ordered the game through EB Games, they received a deck of cards resembling the ones that appear in Black Velvetopia. Look at this deck of cards. They're gorgeous. The king in this deck is Edgar, the queen is Lampita, the jack is Dingo, and the joker is Raz. I need that Black Velvetopia art style injected into my veins. This shit is so good. The third item was a Loot Crate exclusive piece of merch. Just in case anyone doesn't know, Loot Crate is a monthly subscription service that will send you a box full of goodies relating to whatever package you choose. In January of 2017, the gaming Loot Crate had a mad scientist theme that included Raz's goggles. They look great, and you know what? I would just wear them casually. If Ramona Flowers can pull them off, then damn it, I can too. Lastly, I want to talk about an extremely rare item that was obtained via giveaway. On August 12th, 2021, Double Fine sent out this tweet promoting a Psychonauts 2 custom Xbox. Look at this monster! I'm not gonna lie, I mainly really want the controller. Love that little galaxy poking out from the corner. As we can see in the tweet, to get your hands on this beauty, you would need to enter for a chance to win through the Microsoft Rewards app. According to this article from Pure Xbox, you could submit as many entries as you want, but each entry costs 200 Microsoft Reward points. The article also explains that the winner would receive the custom Xbox, a digital copy of Psychonauts 2, the custom controller, a 1TB storage expansion card, and a 4K OLED TV. Wow. So, who won? Unfortunately, I couldn't find any information on the winner of this giveaway. I couldn't find anything on the Double Fine website or anything on social media. If the winner is watching this, or if you know the winner personally, please step forward and let me know that the console is safe and happy. Intern Mentathlon. The Intern Mentathlon was a cut side quest / minigame hosted by Hollis Forsyth. In the Mentathlon, Raz would race against the other interns in a large open area. It's possible that this race took place in the quarry or the questionable area. Not a whole lot is known about the Mentathlon, but we do have a few cut voice lines over on the cutting room floor. Here are some of Hollis's lines.
But come back here quick, before the race starts. And stay out of the restricted areas. They're dangerous. And stick to the paths I've highlighted on your maps. I'd like to have 1 year where nobody falls into an abandoned Psychonauts mine. Remember everything I just said, and there's a chance you might not be killed by one of the base's many hazards. And the winner of the Intern Mentathlon is...
Why the mentathlon was cut is unknown, but if I had to guess, I would say it was because of time constraints. It also feels unusual for Hollis to host a dangerous event like this. Several voice lines hint that the mentathlon is a dangerous event and that the kids would be lucky to survive. In the final game, Hollis is very protective of the kids, so for her to allow them to participate in something so dangerous seems very out of character for her. But I could see Hollis acting a bit harsher if the mentathlon took place inside of a mental world. That way the interns could die and it would be no big deal. And I suppose that it is possible that Hollis was originally going to be way more cutthroat in an earlier version of the game. Mia's Nightmares original plot. Originally, it was planned that the nightmares in Mia's mind were going to escape and cause havoc in other mental worlds. It would then fall on Raz to explore other mental worlds, find the nightmares, and exterminate them. This side plot didn't make its way into the final game, but it is possible that the nightmares we fight in Boyd's mind are a leftover detail from this subplot. I've seen this bit of trivia shared on YouTube comments and through some online forums, but I've struggled to find some hard confirmation for its validity. I found a piece of text regarding this subplot on the Psychonauts wiki, but can't find any interviews with the devs confirming these claims. I'm really hoping that this wasn't covered in a documentary or an interview that I've already brought up, because that's gonna be very embarrassing for me. Unused assets. On the cutting room floor, we can find tons of unused assets for Psychonauts 1 and 2. There's a lot of neat stuff to check out here. It would take a whole video to comb through everything, so we'll talk about a few of the things that I found pretty interesting. First, we have a weird series of textures that were found in the root of the textures folder. Take a look. These textures are named Spinach, and they all feature Eric Cartman from South Park. He's in front of a bright green background, and the text below him reads Beefcake 2000. One image has Cartman's eyes crossed out with a skull and bones next to him. No idea what these textures were used for, but the fact that they were in the root folder suggests that these images were placed here early in development. Next, there are textures for an NPC called an emotional roadblock. There is no 3D model to accompany these textures, but there is an official render of this character. The character's appearance and name suggests that it may have been used to block off certain areas within a mental world. Maybe it would have functioned similarly to mental cobwebs. The emotional roadblock's eyes and mouth look similar to the ones we see on emotional baggage, so maybe the roadblock was some type of collectible. I wonder if it would have made some type of noise, like the crying that the emotional baggage does. I like to think that it would just scream at you to go away. The last thing I want to talk about is a bunch of unused voice lines for P2. These voice lines reference a little card game called Gruloki. The large number of voice lines and Gruloki related items suggests that this was going to be a playable minigame. The Gruloki related lines come from Raz and his family, meaning that the player would get to challenge other Aquados to a game of Gruloki. The game Gruloki is inspired by a real-life card game called Taroki. This game originates from the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and is still played to this day in European countries. The rules are very confusing, at least to me. On Double Fine's YouTube channel, they have a play demonstration of Taroki. Amy Price, Matt Enright, Anna Kipnis, and Brian Anderley spent some time playing the game, and I don't even really know what happened in this video. I tried reading the rules online and thought that the play demonstration would help, but I just ended up getting even more confused. I've always been very bad at learning the rules for card games. I just can't wrap my head around it for some reason. I love Queen's Blood though. And Spoons. Spoons is a card game, by the way. I wasn't just offhandedly mentioning my love for the utensil. Scott Campbell's Psychonauts comics. Scott Campbell is an artist who was the art director on Psychonauts 1. Campbell also created the Double Fine logo, a two-headed baby wearing an old-timey swimsuit. Campbell also created 5 short Psychonauts comics. The comics mainly focus on Sasha, Mia, Oleander, and Kreller, with one comic featuring some campers. Even though the comics are short, they are very humorous. My favorite comic has to be this one with Oleander. That 4th panel just had me in stitches when I first read this. I love that Oleander asks everyone a question, then immediately answers it himself. I also really like this one with Sasha and Kreller. That final panel just kills me. While we're talking about Scott Campbell comics, I also have to mention the Double Fine Action Comics, a series focused on the two-headed Double Fine baby going on an adventure with a knight. Campbell began working on this series around 2005. When he'd arrive at the office, he'd start putting together these comics, and Schaefer wanted them archived online. You can find the entire Action Comics series on the Double Fine website. The series is cute and funny, and it reminds me a lot of Calvin and Hobbes. I would have no doubt loved these comics if I had access to them as a kid. Campbell also created a special Double Fine 10th anniversary comic that features Raz, Eddie Riggs, and the two-headed baby as they chat with some old friends. We get to see Dart again, early versions of Sasha and Mia, an early version of Eddie Riggs, and previous designs for the two-headed baby. It's amazing, it's great, you should check them out. The Gods Must Be Hungry. In episode 12 of Psychonauts, the team takes a break from development on P2 and they get ready for the Amnesia Fortnight. This is a 2-week game jam where Double Fine employees are divided into teams and work together to make some games. At the start of this episode, people go into Tim Schafer's office and one by one they pitch their games to him. Those games are then presented to the community where people can vote on which ideas they want developed into a playable game. Then, the top voted projects have development led by the person who pitched the idea. The project lead gets their own small team of devs and they get to work. One of the games was pitched by Asif Siddiqui, a co-founder of 2Player Productions and the director of photography. The game was called The Gods Must Be Hungry. In this game, you play as a chef that must prepare meals for the gods so they don't consume the human race. It's described as Burger Time meets Attack on Titan, which is just one hell of a pitch. I thought this was a very weird moment in the documentary. Having the people behind the camera directly acknowledged is one thing, but having them play a role in this story, that was unheard of. I haven't seen too many documentaries, but I always believed that the people behind the camera were never allowed to directly interact with what they were documenting. This rule was never explained to me or stated at the beginning of a documentary in big bold text, yet it was something that I just always assumed to be true. Having Siddiqui work on a project for AF was a huge fourth wall shattering moment that had me really excited for this episode.
The fourth wall just crumbled.
Over this 2-week period, we watched teams get to work, and hot damn does it look stressful. I was mainly interested in Siddiqui's journey with AF because he was someone that had little to no experience with making games. And now here he was leading a special project with a tight deadline. If I were in his shoes, I would have been crying in the break room every day. Despite Siddiqui's lack of experience and the urgent circumstances, he continues to put in a tremendous effort alongside his team through development. And when you see all the heart and soul that everyone pours into their projects, you can't help but root for them. Near the end of this episode, AF is quickly reaching its conclusion and Siddiqui drops this line.
I don't know, I mean, this is sort of the part where my inexperience is sort of catching up to me. I just wanted to, like, I don't know, do something that I thought was big and special while I had the opportunity. Because all these people will go back to making games, and I never will.
For me, this is one of the most hard-hitting moments in the entire documentary. On April 27th, 2017, the Amnesia Fortnight closing ceremony was live-streamed. This event showcased all of the games that the teams had worked tirelessly to create. Darwin's Dinner, I Have No Idea What I'm Doing, Kiln, and of course, The Gods Must Be Hungry. In this demo, you run around at this giant kitchen inside of a volcano, avoid hazards, and cook good meals before time runs out. You can also use rails and telekinesis to easily transport ingredients from each cooking station. This game should start to look a little familiar. Overall, it's a fantastic blend between platformer and cooking sim. Once AF was wrapped up, the people at Double Fine went back to work on Psychonauts, and Siddiqui went back to work on the documentary full-time. In episode 13 of Psychonauts, Siddiqui reflects on the development of The Gods Must Be Hungry and his relationships with his team members.
Yeah, it was definitely a very just like, it was sort of on, then it was off, and then all of a sudden all these people here are, you know, team members on a different game now, and like I have this weird memory where it's like, oh, you were like in this dream that I had, Ryan, where like we were making a game together, and now you're just on Psychonauts again.
It's yet another bittersweet moment in the documentary that had me pretty emotional, I can't lie. At this point in the series, we've already seen so much conflict and heartbreak, but something about this moment hits really close to home. I was willing to accept that this was just the nature of things, you know? That's just the way it goes. However, Near the end of this episode, Schaefer actually confirms that Starshadyy has been brought on board to do some work for Psychonauts 2. Crazy, right? Schaefer adds that Starshadyy is constantly generating new ideas for the game, and it was about time that those ideas got put to good use. I was beaming when I finished this episode. It was the happy ending I was hoping for, a wonderful conclusion to this little side story I had been so invested in. Funnily enough, this was only the beginning. At the end of episode 19, the team has a meeting where they discuss the plans for Compton Bull's level in P2. Zach McClendon, project lead on P2, shares that the idea is to take the Gods Must Be Hungry and adapt this concept into Compton's level. Starshadyy, of course, would be directly involved in this process. Over time, Compton's Cook-Off would come to life as the level we see in the final game. It's honestly one of my favorite levels, and I could play through a dozen more just like it. As a kid, I loved the Papa's Flash games, and this level just brought me back to my roots. It was Papa's and Club Penguin's Pizzatron 3000. Years and years of food prep minigames prepared me for this level. But conversely, years and years of being afraid of timers, hampered my performance. Just a little bit. In the making of booklet that came with the Psychonauts box set, yes, I bought it, Starshadyy writes about the gradual transition from working on the documentary to working on P2. As his assignments grew in scope and significance, he would spend less and less time behind the camera. His workstation in the Two Players Productions office went months without use and soon evolved into a staging area for camera and equipment. Starshadyy adds that he is still happily working at Double Fine as a level designer. According to his Twitter, he's even been working on Double Fine's latest project, Keeper. On the last page of Starshadyyy's section in the booklet, he writes, "I want to make the most of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not just working at Double Fine, but doing so as a newcomer with generous, talented people there to support and teach me on the job. There are so many folks out there trying to break into this industry that would kill for the chances I've had, and given how finite and unpredictable life is, I feel like I owe it to them, the Pauls, and myself to keep saying yes for as long as I'm asked to help out." The Pauls in this quote refers to Paul Levering and Paul Owens, the two other founders of Two Player Productions. For one reason or another, this story presented in the documentary really resonated with me. It was just so inspiring to watch someone seize this rare opportunity and make the most of it. I know I could have just said, The Gods Must Be Hungry was a prototype from Amnesia Fortnite that was eventually developed into Compton's Cook-Off. But that would have been really boring. I also really wanted to share this story because it means a lot to me. I'm really hoping to find some people out there who can relate to this feeling. There are a lot of emotional moments throughout the documentary, and I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Emotional baggage crying secret. Whenever you get close to some emotional baggage, you'll hear the bag crying. That crying noise actually changes depending on which mental world you're in. The crying always matches the host of whatever mental world they occupy. So all of the baggage and basic braining sounds like Oleander. The baggage in Mia's dance party sounds like Mia. The baggage in Sasha's shooting gallery sounds like Sasha, and the list goes on. And in case you're curious, the Brain Tumblr experiment has some baggage that sounds like Dogen, while the rest sound like Raz. Unfortunately, the baggage in P2 lacks this detail. All of the baggage sounds the same across all mental worlds. Lipo Story Document. In February 2013, Double Fine sent out a build of Psychonauts that contained a large number of development files. Among these files was a document titled Lipo Character Backstories. This document contains backstories for a ton of different characters in the first game. Raz, Lily, Mia, Sasha, and so many more. A lot of this information is never even stated in-game, but it seems like that was intentional. The first few lines of the document reads as follows. Most of these stories will never show up directly in the game. They're just here as a reference and inspiration for dialogue writing, voice recording, etc. While the backstories are very fun to read through, I don't believe that every piece of information here is 100% canon. For example, in Raz's backstory, it's written that his grandmother Morona died in childbirth, yet in Psychonauts 2, Morona dies in a flood caused by Maligula. This is just one of numerous instances where information from this document contradicts what we learn in the games. Still, I think it's fun to poke around and see what they had in mind for each character. Again, it would make this long video even longer to go through each backstory, so I want to focus on just one. You could read 5 or 6 backstories, or just one. That's not a good bit. I need to remember to cut that later. As far as I know, this backstory hasn't been contradicted by anything in the games yet, and I think it's super cool. This is the backstory of Elka Doom, one of the Whispering Rock campers. According to this document, Elka comes from a long line of Nordic soothsayers. The name Doom comes from one of her ancestors that was a feared and respected fortune teller from a small mountain town. The people of this town unlovingly referred to him as Old Man Doom. This is because his prophecies always foretold horrible events happening. Sometimes your cattle would die, and sometimes your loved ones would betray you. Old Man Doom never had anything good to say about your future. One day the villagers grew tired of Doom's awful fortunes and decided to put an end to him. They had theorized that Doom was actually orchestrating all of this misfortune instead of reporting on it like he claimed. By defeating him, the villagers believed they could free themselves from this endless cycle of misfortune. However, once the villagers made their way to Doom's doorstep, he stopped them and told them that he foresees a prosperous and joyous year for them. The villagers were shocked and glad to receive such good news and lowered their torches. As they walked back to the village and away from Doom's home, they were killed by an avalanche. The townspeople who survived had banished Doom. Throughout history, the Dooms have been both revered and despised for their talents. They would serve kings and advisors for one generation, then spend the next generation hiding in caves. Loved, then feared as quick as the swing of a metronome. The Doom family struggled, but eventually became accustomed to their turbulent lives. Elka's father, Barney Doom, worked at an insurance actuary. He would advise his company on who and who not to insure. Since he could see if misfortune would soon befall potential clients, he was able to excel in this line of work. One day Barney met a bizarre young woman named Mabel. She loved hearing all about all these terrible things that would happen to her and people she knew. When a young Elka Doom demonstrated an ability to foresee misfortune, Mabel was thrilled. The excitement was brought to a halt when Elka foresaw that either Mabel or Barney would have an affair in the near future. Shocked by the news, her parents sent her away to summer camp. Elka, like many Dooms before her, had been banished. While her parents encouraged her to have fun at camp, Elka knew that trouble was brewing at Whispering Rock. So, this is a crazy backstory to just hand off to an NPC. Not just any regular NPC either. An NPC that you can completely ignore in your entire playthrough. That's wild. I know that these backstories are mostly here for inspiration and dialogue, but damn, this is so interesting. Especially since the other campers outside of Raz and Lily don't have super detailed backstories like Elka's. I love Dogen's backstory though. His is pretty hard to beat. His reads as follows. Dogen's family just didn't know what to do with him. Also, in case you're wondering where the name Lipo or Lipo comes from, this was the codename for Psychonauts. Every Double Fine project codename comes from bars in Chinatown in San Francisco. Buddha was the codename for Brutal Legends, EZ5 was the codename for Happy Action Theater, Grasslands was the codename for Psychonauts 2, Bao Bao was the codename for a potential Brutal Legends 2, Vesuvio was Once Upon a Monster, Empress was the sequel to Once Upon a Monster that unfortunately got cancelled, and Reds was the codename for Broken Age. Bob's sister. Bob Zanotto is the uncle of Truman Zanotto, who is the father of Lily Zanotto. We know that Bob's mother and father passed away, but what about Bob's siblings? The mother or father of Truman. In a few games throughout the series, Lily actually mentions having a grandmother. In Rhombus of Ruin, we find a music box that once belonged to Lily's grandma. But outside of these tiny crumbs of info, we don't actually know a whole lot about this mysterious member of the Zanotto family. It's crazy that we didn't learn more about this character while exploring Bob's bottles. I don't know, maybe there's an Easter egg or a subtle nod to Bob's sister that I just didn't catch. Defunct Vault Viewer app. The Psychonauts Vault Viewer app was an iOS app that allowed users to peruse through all of the mental vaults from Psychonauts 1. The app also featured commentary from Tim Schafer and Scott Campbell. This commentary, along with footage of the app, has been archived on Double Fine's YouTube channel. Schafer and Campbell drop a lot of behind-the-scenes information in their commentary, so it's worth a watch if you're curious about a specific character and their memory vault. It's in this commentary where Schafer explains that Boyd Cooper was based on a real person. It's also just nice to hear a more concrete explanation of what's happening in each vault, since they can be pretty vague at times. Maury's Mermech. A lot of neat behind-the-scenes stuff was shown off in the art book for P2. On page 175 of the art book, we can see concept art of Coach Oleander's Mermech. It appears to be a giant robot designed to look like a mermaid. Ah yes, the fourth member of All Paul. On the left side of the page, we can find a big block of text written by Seth Marinello, lead game designer on P2. The text explains that originally Oleander was going to have his own dedicated area like Sasha and Mia do. This area would have been a large garage shaped like Oleander. Inside the garage, we would have found Oleander tinkering with his giant battle bots. While this area never made it to the final game, footage of this cut area does exist. Over on Twitter, Asif Siddiqui has shared some footage of this cut area. In the footage, we can see that the coach's garage would have been more complex than the areas where we find Sasha and Mia. There are ledges to platform on, ropes to climb, items to collect. It looks really cool, and damn it, now I'm sad that it was cut. On the cutting room floor, there are a few placeholder voice lines for Oleander that reference his BattleBots. Coach Oleander's BattleBots were even planned to have a larger role in this story. In the original plans for the ending, Oleander was going to pilot his mech and show up at the Heptadome after Lucretia's lament. He would have threatened to attack Lucretia, but would hesitate since she appears as a kind old lady. Truman, controlled by Gristle, would have taken advantage of the situation to gain control of this battle mech. The final battle would have had the Psychic 7 and Raz up against Maligula and Oleander's mech. This final battle sounds extremely hectic with all those moving parts, and I'm not sure if it would have made for the better fight. Brainstorm. Brainstorm is a cut ability that Raz would have learned from Compton Boole. The idea was that Compton's anxiety would sometimes cause a storm cloud to form above his head. Bolts of lightning would then shoot out from the cloud and change whatever they touched. A strawberry could turn into an orange, or a carrot, or a xylophone, or some other random object. Working with Brainstorm proved to be difficult as the cloud could randomly zap an object you were planning on using. Then you'd be forced to sit and wait, hoping for the object to get zapped again, and hope that it would turn into the desired object. In the end, Brainstorm was cut and Raz never earned that elusive merit badge. Herndon Forsyth. In pre-alpha gameplay for Rhombus of Ruin, Mia and Sasha are heard communicating with someone named Herndon Forsyth.
Motherlode, come in. This is Agents 9 and...
Sorry, little busy right now. No time for camp business.
This is not camp business, Herndon. This concerns the kidnapping.
Neither of you are assigned to that mission.
We are already aboard the Pelican en route to the Motherlode.
We don't need your help here. It would only add overhead to a complex operation.
Give us the intel you've gathered so far, and we can help
It's
with the...
under control, agents. Go back to camp and take care of those children.
But...
Motherlode out.
This conversation doesn't happen in the final game, and all mention of Herndon Forsyth were removed. It seems likely that Herndon Forsyth was changed to Hollis Forsyth during development. As to why they were removed from Rhombus of Ruin, I'm not really sure. Run Rabbit Run. Run Rabbit Run is a 1939 song written by Noel Gay and Ralph Butler. The song's lyrics tell a story of a farmer that enjoys rabbit pie on Fridays. In the morning, he spends his time hunting rabbits for his pie. The lyrics mostly consist of this line: run rabbit, run, run, run. This song appears in Basic Braining as a leitmotif. There are so many hints in this level towards Oleander's traumatic past with bunnies. I feel like we find a new one every time we talk about it. Questionable Area Tourist Couple. On YouTube, a channel uploaded a video featuring dialogue from two cut characters. These cut characters are a couple named Cornelia and Stefan, and they would be found exploring the questionable area. Most of their voice lines appear to be idle chatter that you would hear as you pass by them. A link to this video can be found in the description, so go check it out. Their dialogue is very cute and I enjoy hearing their chit-chat. Tales About Bees, official translation. In Cassie's collection, there is a book titled Concilium Apum. Sorry for butchering that. We enter this book several times throughout the level, and it's full of text that we platform across. The Latin words in these books actually tell a story when translated to English. There are various translations of this story online, but I'm gonna play it safe and reference the one I found on the Psychonauts wiki. The translation reads as follows. Once, a wasp said she would destroy the hive. 6 strong bees began to buzz. The first bee told a story. It was bad. The second sang a song of peace. The wasp did not love him. The third asked for help from the ants, and they refused. The 5th bee tried to freeze the wasp, but she didn't notice. The 6th finally won the day, but he lost his mind. The first bee is the most destitute. She was the first to fail the many. She would build herself up stronger. She discarded her mercy upon the shelf. She left the hive and made another. But she is alone in her new hive. She frightens away outsiders, and lives there to this day. This story is a clear allegory for the Psychic Six and their battle against Maligula. Each bee represents the Psychic Six, and the wasp is of course Maligula. The story describes the many ways the Psychic Six failed to defeat her, ending with Ford's success. The story also focuses on Cassie and how her failure made her feel. This story doesn't tell us anything groundbreaking, but it's an awesome little detail. Real-life Whispering Rock. Okay, so for those who might not know, back when Psychonauts 2 was first announced, Double Fine also announced their crowdfunding campaign on Fig. Fig was a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter. On Fig, backers for P2 could get loads of cool rewards for donating specific amounts. If you donated $150, you could get your name and brain in Otto's Hall of Brains. Donating $800 would get you a replica of Raz's bag with all of his merit badges stitched on. Then, for the low price of $10,000, you could get yourself a ticket to visit the real-life Camp Whispering Rock. Double Fine's YouTube channel has a short video documenting the trip, and gosh, it looks like such a good time. They have this giant sign that looks just like the one in the game, they grilled food, played board games, and they even made tie-dye shirts. Later that night, they have a dance with blacklights and music, and it just looks like a good time. Here in the video, we can see these little cards featuring several recipes for Psychonauts-themed cocktails. A hand of Galocchio, the Psy Blast, a Dr. Lobato, and El Odio. It's a margarita. I need someone to make these and try all of them to let me know if they're any good. I am unfortunately too much of a lightweight to try any of these. I get buzzed off of 5 sips of kombucha. Overall, the trip looked super fun, and I'm really jealous of anyone who got to go. Before I move on to the next entry, I need you to hear me out. I have ideas for a real-life Whispering Rock that I need to share. And just so we're clear, the real-life Whispering Rock thing isn't some kind of annual event or anything like that. I have ideas, and I need to share them. Please let me have this. Okay, so hear me out. What if the people who attended this hypothetical Whispering Rock could earn merit badges by playing minigames set up around camp? For example, to get your telekinesis merit badge, you'd have to play through a few rounds of that board game where you move the ball with your mind. Or if you wanted your clairvoyance badge, maybe you'd have to win a game of Guess Who. To get your invisibility badge, you could try to win a game of hide and seek. I don't know. These ideas might be really bad, so if you think that, that's okay. That's fine. I just needed to share them because I've been thinking about it ever since I found out about the real-life Camp Whispering Rock. AUGU/cult. This entry refers to scrapped levels for P2. Not much is known about these levels besides their names and the devs' computers. I've had a really hard time digging up any information regarding this entry, but the AUGU abbreviation has me thinking it has something to do with Augustus. I've seen a few sources online claim that there may have once been a level planned for Augustus's mind. As for that cult abbreviation, I've got nothing. I have a crazy theory that has literally zero proof, but I'm gonna share it anyways because it's my video, goddammit. In episode 3 of Psychonauts, the team play with a few ideas for levels in P2. One of these ideas was exploring the mind of a stalker. The character would have been completely obsessed with another person, which would shape this creepy and unsettling level. Now let's say this character is a big fan of someone in the Psychonauts. Maybe this character is someone like Raz and they're obsessed with the True Psychic Tales comics or something like that. Maybe this stalker character is part of a cult following. Yeah? You see the vision? It makes no sense? Okay. Alright, let's move on. Bob was planned to be in love with Ford. In episode 11 of Psychonauts, we see another team meeting where Schaefer shares a few ideas for Bob Zanotto's backstory. In this pitch, Schaefer explains that the player would venture into Bob's mind and discover why Bob has been so distant from the Psychonauts. Bob would have isolated himself because of a love triangle with Lucretia and Ford. The big twist would have been that Bob wasn't in love with Lucretia, but was actually in love with Ford. Eventually, this idea was changed so that Bob and Helmet end up together, but the original concept is still really interesting. I think that having Bob end up with Helmet is ultimately the better choice, because if they had kept this love triangle, that would have been way too many people in love with Ford. Cassie, Bob, and Lucy? Ford doesn't need a mental magnet to pull.
The part of the story that feels a little like, really? To me is is everyone in love with Ford? Like, what is the deal? Like,
This is something I need to explain to younger people all the time. Older people actually used to be young, and and this is going to upset a lot of people, they got it on a lot.
Razigula. Back to the cutting room floor, we have more unused dialogue. This is a series of lines shared between Raz and Maligula.
I am a murderer! I murdered all your minions, and you're next! I'm the greatest psychonaut who ever lived! I was mentored by Ford Cruller himself!
I am a murderer! I murdered all your minions, and you're next! I was mentored by Ford Cruller himself. I'm the greatest psychonaut who ever lived.
It's unknown what these lines would have been used for. Maybe Maligula would have possessed Raz at some point. Maybe she would have had an easier time controlling Raz because of their familial relationship. Or she could have been able to influence him while she was in her mind. Either way, Maligula is a pretty terrifying force of nature. Campster and MySpace character profiles. Before the release of Psychonauts 1, Double Fine created a fictional social media site called Campster. This was an in-universe social media site that was once hosted on the real-life social platforms Friendster and MySpace. Eventually, all of this information was ported over to the Double Fine website. On this website, you can find a slew of information regarding each of the campers. It's really fun to just poke around and see what's going on, so I recommend you give it a look. Luckily, the website can still be accessed, so I've provided a link in the description. Though you should be warned that there is some shocking material on this site. Crystal Snagrash and Clemfoot have some jarring posts relating to their depression, Dogan Boole has gifs and images of exploding heads, and Bobby Zilch has photos of real dead animals and roadkill. It's a little rough. There's also several instances of characters using harsh language. It caught me really off guard when I would spot it. On Lily's page, the most recent comment comes from Milka Phage, who writes, "Lily, if you want your homework assignment, you can find it at the bottom of Lake Oblongata, where I put it, which is where I'll put you and those hoes Frankie and Kitty if you ever mess with Elton again. Understood? P.S. I like your skirt." Honestly, this site is worth looking through for the drama alone. This is great. The original protagonist was an ostrich with DID. Yep. Before Raz was set to be the protagonist, it was going to be an ostrich with dissociative identity disorder. At the Game Developers Conference, Tim Schafer hosted a session called Adventures in Character Design. During this session, Schafer explains the original plans for the protagonist of Psychonauts. Ultimately, the team decided against the ostrich because Schafer believes that all games are wish fulfillment, and he was concerned about who would want to play as an ostrich with a mental illness. And you know what? I think a lot of people would have been on board with the ostrich character. Games have a lot of weird protagonists, and I feel like you can do a lot worse than an ostrich. I never thought I'd want to play as a kid in a chicken suit, or a tiny green alien guy, or a literal glove. Okay, I might be part of the minority with that one, but that game, I had it growing up. I loved that game. That game was good, I think. I haven't played it in years. Cancelled mobile game. In 2011, Double Fine had developed a Psychonauts mobile game that would unfortunately never be released. In a video on Double Fine's YouTube channel, Schafer shows off the prototype that was created. The game opens with text explaining how the federal government found a wooded canyon known as Whispering Valley. Thanks to the underground deposits of Titanium, the psychic abilities in animals and people were amplified. The government then decided to turn this place into a training facility for the next generation of Psychonauts agents. To get this place up and running, they sent Ford Cruller to get the job done. As Ford Cruller, the player would need to set up camp. Over time, campers from Psychonauts 1 would show up, and you could use their help to clear the forest and make way for the camp's facilities. In the video, we see Schaefer assign Elka Doom to remove a tree with telekinesis. This is where microtransactions would come into play, as certain tasks, like removing a tree, would take a specific amount of real-world time. You could speed up this process by giving campers some Psychonauts. This would amplify their powers and allow them to get the task done much faster. Each camper also had their own stats relating to their psychic powers. Campers would have access to telekinesis, levitation, Psyblast, clairvoyance, and pyrokinesis. All of these abilities would have likely played a role in helping out around camp. In this little preview of the game, we primarily see campers use telekinesis to remove trees in the area. You would have been able to improve each character's stats with certain camp facilities. For example, you could improve a camper's telekinesis ability by having them use the telekinetic horseshoe pit. Overall, I think this game is pretty cute. Even though I'm not big on mobile games, I think that it'd be fun to check in on my own pocket-sized Whispering Rock every now and then. You've done it. You've made it to the end of another long video on Psychonauts. Or your first video if this is the first one you've seen. Anyways, by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you all junior agents of the Psychonauts. Here's your badge. You don't get free parking, by the way. A huge thank you to my supernatural supporters over on Patreon. This video was something I wanted to do since doing my videos on Psychonauts, but I figured I'd be overdoing it with the Psychonauts content, so I thought I'd wait a few months and then give this video a shot. Which worked out perfectly because the anniversary for Psychonauts 2 is right around the corner. If you want to hear me talk more about Double Fine games, definitely let me know. Growing up, I had Costume Quest and The Cave on my PS3, and I've always wanted to sink my teeth into Brutal Legend. And now I have the perfect excuse to do it. I will 100% be playing Keeper when that comes out this October. If you want a video on that, again, let me know. I'm really looking forward to it. We're nearing 10,000 subscribers, and that number is absolutely unbelievable to me. When I first started this channel, I was not expecting to break over like 10 subs, and now here we are. It's incredible, and I am so thankful for all your kind words and the support you've given me. It really is just so much fun looking at the comments and seeing everyone gush about their favorite games. Thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited for all the fun stuff I have planned in the future, and I hope you'll be around for it. Take care.